God's intention is always to restore and to draw people to himself. And if we can be the light to them, like the salt and light, to like show, a different way of life than they even know, and that's one thing you can offer in foster care is like just to bring that hope and restoration in whatever way we can through our words and actions to help families. My name's Satterfield, and I'm a school counselor, a social worker, school counselor, and I have gone through the process of fostering to adopt. I have like a flood of feelings that come when I think of how the foster system has been built on and just how it is today versus even like 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And part of my story has always been centered around foster care. My birth mother grew up in foster care when she was 7 years old. So I had foster grandparents growing up. And unfortunately with my mom, she wasn't able to, I think, get past her trauma that she had experienced with those broken attachments in her life. I grew up with my mom and my dad. They divorced when I was about 2.5, and my mom entered into another relationship. And it became very dysfunctional pretty quickly. Lots of different abuses I had to endure, and could never really talk about it. And then when I went into high school, I became a ward of the state. I had so many behaviors that I ended up in the office all the time. And those behaviors were from the way that I was living at home. I didn't know how to like act, I guess you would say. And I ended up talking and getting close with the secretary. I didn't show up to school one day. She called me and she's like, "Where are you today?" I'm like, "I'm not coming." And she had me talk to another secretary. And within 5-10 minutes, they were pounding on my door. And had she not came that day, I was going to take my life. So they took me back to school and they had to call CPS, Child Protective Services. I had to move to what I call Whoville, like in Bolivar, to live with my grandparents. So by the time it was my senior year, I hadn't filled out any applications. I did take the ACT and it was like extremely low, like I think a 12, because I've never been able to test well. And just knowing like I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to have to find a job somewhere, but I had a school teacher who is still today like a parent to me. Say, I think you'd be very good with working with the elderly or working with children. And she took me to Sark State, walked me along the journey, got accepted, had no clue what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a school counselor so much, and I remember her and another counselor telling me, "It's really not what you think it is." I said, "Because you guys have impacted me so much, I want to be able to have that impact on other kids." And so that's what I did. I started at Sark State. I went on to Akron for my bachelor's degree in social work, and it was a long journey because it took me forever. I came with the question like, "Do you want to go to grad school or not?" And I'm like, "Oh, I hate school." Like I loved school so much until college, and I was like, it's just so much work, and I was working full time, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And so that same counselor, Mrs. Kupis, she was able to meet with me, review my graduate essay and application, so she got to be a part of my journey the whole way through to finishing grad school. And I just always think that's so like unique and special because she continued to have an impact. I would say my ultimate goal at the end of the day is always to just allow kids to feel safe, to feel heard, to feel accepted, and just to feel like they have a safe place and safe person to go to. So when Amika first came to my home, it was in January of 19. She had come from a very, very dysfunctional home before she went into foster care, and it was her third time being in the system as a 3-year-old. I was in a place where I was working at the counseling job where I was going into schools, going into homes, being in the office. So that's where I was at when you look at like a career thing, and so that was a long process. It was like not until December of 2021 where I got to officially adopt her. I think so many times like people just have all these what ifs in their mind, or well, what if this happens? What if this? And I think you just kind of like, it's good to be aware of those what ifs, but to just like focus on them and let that make your decision to just say no, I think is disheartening in some ways, because every day you make different choices. You make different choices to get a different job. You make different choices to buy a car, which for some people that's a huge deal, but we're talking about like the life of a child that you can provide safety for. you don't have to be a foster parent to help a foster family. You know, it was very helpful to have like an encouragement, like, you're doing a great job, you know, you're a great mom. Our words are so powerful, you know, and we can impact people so much. Praying for them, you know, just asking, like, if you have like connections with like somebody close in their life, like, what do you see as their need and how could I help? But I think the big thing too, like, because I know we're all busy, life gets chaotic, we all have our own work lives, we all have our own stuff in our life going on. It's just like, you're letting the person know you're not alone in this journey. Like, I want to help, I'm here if you need something, you know. I just think that's very important.